Good morning.
Good morning.
How is everyone?
Good.
Good.
Awesome. Cool. My energy is like beep. I think there's been some energetic shifting going on and downloads and things like that. And it's like just fasten your seatbelt and it'll pass. It's interesting that this last Tuesday I was just full of myself. I pretty much had figured out what I was going to say to you, and metaphorically I came across this idea of, you know, when you get a birthday gift ready to go and you pull out your box and your ribbon and your paper and your tape and your scissors, and so you're all ready to go, but as the week progresses and you haven't had a chance to get to it, all of a sudden Friday comes along and you're like, I've only got this much tape, I don't like the paper, where did I put my scissors? And it completely fell apart. So last night I'm like, I was just about ready to call Sandy and go, help me, because it was just not coming together. And then all of a sudden there was this, and I'm like, okay. So what I decided to do, because my question was, why do I want to become more spiritual? Because I realize that every single one of us in here, in fact, everything, every living being on the planet has its own very, very unique and special gift. And your own path is divinely inspired for what you add to the collective. So I have nothing really to say to you other than to tell you that you are holy, incredible, beautiful, divine beings, masters on your way to greater mastery and enlightenment. So for me, I'm going to share my path to you. And if there is something that you can take home, something that hits home, something that you hear that's a little bit different than the way that you've heard it before, then I've done my job. So again, I had to ask myself, why do I want to become more spiritual? The nice simple answer would be that this world doesn't offer me what nurtures and prospers me. The world offers potential security, but we know that we can never ever have enough money, do we? And if we do have that kind of money, there seems to be all kinds of opportunities for it to be removed. Whether they hack into our accounts, whether somebody sells you something that's too good to be true. And this doesn't mean that you have to have money. I mean, if they get a hold of your credit card number, then off they go with that, eh? So there are countless and numberless ways of separating you from your stuff, whether you really have it or not. And so a client had told me that she and her husband had diligently saved for years and years and years and had this huge, wonderful, comfortable bit for when they retired, and in one split second, the stock market took it from them. And I said, well, I've never been able to really save that kind of money. And she says, well, then in that way, she said, at least you got to live on yours. You know, you got to spend yours. So it changed my mind about that, you know. So the world offers no real security. But the ego would have us believe that it's worth doing. The world offers no comfort, only anxiety, stress, and worry. But the ego would believe if you would just work hard enough that you could be comfortable. The world offers no peace. It's too busy looking for other countries and peoples to lord over and conquer so that it can feel safer, more secure, and show you how strong it is. The world offers no real power, because real power isn't forcing the world to do your bidding. They call that tyranny. The world does not offer taking responsibility, being transparent, or trustworthy. It can't. It has an agenda of its own. It is self-serving and narcissistic. I was taught as a child in the Christian Science Church that I was a divine child of God, and that God offers me the keys to the kingdom: love, peace, security, wisdom, trust, respect, and compassion. And I read that because metaphors are so wonderful in cementing an idea in, that we're somewhat like an apple tree. We still are working in a 3- and 4-dimensional reality here. So it takes an apple tree 7 years to bear fruit. It takes us time to mature as the spiritual seeds that we are into greater and greater enlightenment and mastery. That's why we don't judge where we are. There's more to come. I ask myself, what does it take to be awakened and to remember who I am? And it is not simply by claiming oneness, but by living it, by living consciously in the presence. Consciously practicing our devotions now, what we want. I don't know about you, but I want the things that I can only find inside, in spirit, not what the world has to offer. Because if you give it a second, it will vanish. There is no real solidity there. So the path to wholeness means wedding the personal with the universal. To become whole and conscious means healing the body, the mind, and the heart. And I believe that the heart is the doorway. We heal the mind with meditation, positive thinking, psychology, an infinite variety of classes and books and other wise beings that have gone before us. But most importantly, practicing the presence. Because that's where it is. It's in the now. It's not in the future. There is really no such thing as the future. Because once you find yourself in the future, where are you? You're now. So all life that is God or Source or the Beloved exists in the present moment only. But we need to heal the thoughts that created judgment in our more unconscious days when things had to happen that we didn't understand to get us here. It was the vehicle that got us here. The world thrives on feeling separate, being unconscious, being afraid. But I'm striving for unity, consciousness, and love. Jack Kornfield, in A Path with Heart, says, to open deeply as a genuine spiritual life will demand, we need courage and strength, a kind of warrior spirit. And the place for this warrior strength is going to come out of our heart. Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes says, to heal means to make whole, not to go back to what was, but to stand in what is. And belief in duality has made man sick, and the understanding of unity will heal us. As I was studying and looking through my Science of Mind book and being with the fatigue that I've experienced this week, I saw a What Makes Man Fatigued in the Science of Mind textbook, and I looked at it, I read the sentence, and I denied it right there. I mean, I'm like, nope, that is not me. And I go, uh-oh, wait a minute, let me look at that again. I'm going to be brave, I'm going to see what he says. And it says, fatigue comes from when you are in resistance to what you cannot change. And I'm like, okay. You're right. You know, and it gave me a picture of standing there, you know, the stories we were told when we were kids about the little Dutch boy who had the finger in the dike because the dike was about ready to break over his head. And that's the picture I get. When I'm resisting universal wisdom, you know, I'm this stupid little kid with his finger in the dike, you know, and the water's crusting over the top, and I'm going to get flattened. You know, so just pull your finger out and go get your inner tube. So he also adds, how are to regain the lost paradise? Only through soul culture and careful self-analysis. This, they had us, when we were in Al-Anon, they had a little clear, they gave everybody a little page, and it had these little tiny squares all over it, and then there was a little quote on each one of the squares. And you were supposed to peel them off and stick them on your mirrors. And the little quote said, you're looking at the problem. So we begin to heal the heart with willingness. It takes compassion for yourself and the other to open the possibility of what happened to you happened not to you, but for you. My father years ago called and asked, he said, have you been able to forgive me? We never ever discussed what that was, and I didn't feel that we needed to dig into that. And I thought that it was interesting that he didn't ask for forgiveness. Perhaps his ego wouldn't allow it. But he did ask if I had been able to. And I told him, I said, you know, Dad, I took what you gave me, I composted it and put it around my fruits and vegetables. And I said, and now, I said, yes, I have, because what I did with what you gave has created the person that I am today. And for that, I'm actually grateful. I wouldn't want to do it again. I wouldn't want to go there again. However, I am really, really grateful for Spirit guiding me through those very murky waters and helping to assist me into evolving beyond that so that I could have compassion and understanding. Jack Kornfield describes that healing the body first is on his agenda by doing techniques that brings us awareness of our bodies so we can actually begin to live in them. He says to heal the body, we must study pain, and pain is the pathway to awareness, but also unresolved emotional, spiritual, and psychological holdings. My healing started in the mind first. I remember standing in an Al-Anon meeting speaking many, many years ago and realized after just recently becoming aware of the fact that I live from the neck up. I thought that the only thing I had to offer the world was my intelligence. My heart was so shut down, and that it took me 20 years to discover where my anger was. I didn't really think that I had it. I knew that I should have it, but I didn't know where it was. I didn't know how it felt, and I could not access it. Because you see, the thing is, due to my childhood and my early adulthood, to be angry in front of my parents who were unconscious, unresolved, raging nutcases themselves, you showed any anger, there was a nuclear event happened in your living room. So I had to spend 20 years figuring out how to get down from here down. And I remember when I was in the Light Institute many years ago, my facilitator told me, she said, you know, one day, Jenny, you will understand that what you think are your strengths are actually your weaknesses, and what are your weaknesses are actually your strengths. And it took me a long time to understand what she meant by that. But now I understand that coming out of the heart, healing your heart, having compassion for other people's unconsciousness is probably one of the greatest spiritual acquisitions that we personally can do. So as I have studied Eckhart Tolle, his teachings have helped me to become aware of the greater aspect of me, my higher self, and that I am not my thoughts and I am not my story. That behind that, my higher self has infinite wisdom, peace, and stillness. And that even though there are countless thoughts that travel through my head on a daily basis, ranging from the most depraved to the most high, you know, I'm not that. I am a spiritual being primarily. And she is very, very delighted and proud and loving of me. And when I get into the worst kinds of moods and my judgments flying all over the place and I am in despair for which of an illusion, of course, I can just reach in and feel her love, her guidance, and know that everything's going to be all right. So I have learned to quiet my heart, as I've learned to quiet my mind, because I went mind down.